Most combat aircraft fight in the physical domain.
This here is the EA-18G Growler. Primary mission is airborne electronic attack.
The Growler battles in a realm that's invisible to the naked eye, the electronic spectrum.
At 7:41 a.m., every radar screen inside a North Korean MiG-29 turned to static. 1 second later, the pilot stared into a wall of ghost contacts that didn't exist. 2 seconds after that, the jet was gone. This wasn't about missiles, it was about information. The Growler's ALQ-99 jamming system didn't just block the MiG's radar, it rewrote what reality looked like to the pilot. And in less than 2 heartbeats, a decades-old fighter was erased by invisible power. This is how electronic warfare became deadlier than guns.
One way the Growler does that is by doing something called jamming. Here's how it works. Growler is a key part of every air attack squadron. Its primary purpose, to shut down the enemy's radar. Growler has a receiver on each wingtip. These receivers search out the radar signals on the enemy's surface-to-air missile.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The MiG-29 rose from the tarmac not as a hunter but as a declaration. Its climb was political as much as tactical, an airborne signal that North Korea would not be ignored. Below it, the Yellow Sea carried the shadows of 2 American aircraft, the RC-135 Rivet Joint, always gathering, and the EA-18G Growler, always watching. The scramble order had one purpose: visibility. For Pyongyang, the flight itself was the message. But from the moment the Fulcrum's engines cleared the runway, it was already inside a digital crosshair. The RC-135's receivers began recording at a microscopic level. Every radar wave, every flicker of the MiG's N-019 system was mapped against known Soviet-era patterns. The jet's frequency hop from 9.8 to 10.3 GHz was not a surprise, it was confirmation.
This allows friendly fighters to sneak unseen past enemy lines. The Growler doesn't just jam the enemy, it can inflict physical damage too. The jamming pods overwhelm the enemy's radar by sending out electronic noise.
Each pulse traveled through the electromagnetic spectrum and into a live feed reaching the USS Theodore Roosevelt, where analysts watched the battle unfold in real time. Inside the MiG's cockpit, the pilot saw freedom of maneuver. Inside the American network, that same move became a data point. His radar sweeps were radio beacons, each one betraying a little more of the jet's outdated encryption and range gate logic. The analog dials and legacy processors were up against a system fluent in machine analysis, one that could build a full radar profile before a trigger finger even flexed. That was the real gap, the distance between intent and awareness. Visibility meant power to one side, vulnerability to the other.
Receiver on each wingtip. These receivers search out the radar signals on the enemy's surface-to-air missile. The jamming pods overwhelm the enemy's radar by sending out electronic noise. The Growler battles in a realm that's invisible to the naked eye, the electronic spectrum.
On the Rivet Joint screens, the MiG's signal became less a threat and more a catalog entry, a chance to archive its radar language for future use. The Growler didn't have to engage to win, it only had to listen. The Fulcrum thought it was testing resolve. What it exposed instead was its own heartbeat. And in the next moment, the Growler would flip the switch that silenced it.
And identifies them as safe or a threat. If they're a threat, the Growler activates one of its jamming pods. The information travels to a computer in the Growler's cockpit. Within milliseconds, the computer analyzes the signals.
Per the configuration, we can have up to 3, 1 on each wing, and they'll be the same. And then we also have the one here on the center line.
One aircraft lost its eyes, the other never had to look back. The Growler's ALQ-99 pods came alive, releasing a flood of electromagnetic energy across the MiG's entire radar band. Each pulse was tuned, timed, and layered with the rivet joint's passive sensors, creating a synchronized haze that filled the airwaves. It wasn't brute force, it was orchestration, a calibrated disruption that reached straight into the MiG's radar core. Inside the cockpit, chaos replaced order. The radar screen lit up with dozens of phantom blips, flickering and multiplying faster than the pilot could track. Contacts drifted, reversed, and merged into impossible formations. Convinced he was under electromagnetic attack, he increased his radar's output power by 40%, a desperate bid to cut through the fog. But that surge only deepened the trap.
It can locate, jam, and destroy enemy radar, all in under a minute. The EA-18G Growler is the most advanced electronic attack aircraft on Earth.
The overload forced his radar processors to recalibrate on the fly, locking their attention on ghosts instead of real returns. Within seconds, the clutter became a battlefield that didn't exist. Across a span of roughly 12 nautical miles, the system projected a bloom of false echoes, targets that formed, split, and regrouped in random arcs. The MiG's sensors fought to assign velocity and altitude values to nothing. Each correction bled more power, destabilizing the signal processors and pushing them toward collapse. Meanwhile, the Growler and the rivet joint held their silence. They emitted nothing more than passive readings, waiting for the signal-to-noise ratio to dip below the threshold that marked total blindness. At that moment, the MiG's radar died, 0 seconds. 2 seconds later, the Growler launched an AM-120. The missile closed at Mach 4, reaching detonation 1.8 seconds after impact.
For high-speed anti-radiation missile. It's specifically designed to hone in on the surface-to-air radar's electronic signal.
Primary mission is jamming. However, secondary mission we have is using the harm, as you see here on the wing. The harm zones in on where the enemy radar is, and then looks to explode over it.
The fight never became physical, it was decided by information. The kill existed first in software, confirmed only by explosion. The final record wasn't wreckage, it was the captured signal, clean and complete. The Growler's victory marked a turning point. Speed, altitude, and thrust meant less than signal mastery. Warfare had shifted from cockpit reflexes to code execution, whoever shaped the spectrum shaped the fight. The MiG's fall wasn't about air combat, it was proof of algorithmic dominance. Now the question is no longer whose aircraft is faster, but whose network responds first. Will the next war be flown by pilots or by programs built to think faster than any human can? Comment your choice below. Subscribe and join a community that studies the hidden signals defining the next generation of conflict.